Hi guys, welcome back to Coffee's Classroom. I'm Miss Coffee, and today we're going to do some bar model practice before our test on Monday. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Our first problem says there are 278 people at camp. 26 of them are teachers, and the rest are children. How many children are there? So what I like to do is find all the important information. So I'm going to circle that there are 278 people at camp. And then I know that 26 of them are teachers. That's probably also going to be really important. And I always underline my question. How many children are there? So I know a total, 278 people. I know a part of them, 26, are teachers. And it's asking me how many children are there. So we're going to draw a bar model to figure that out. So I like starting with what I know. There are 270 people. We know that information. So I can draw a bar for that. And we're going to label this entire bar 278. And this is people at camp. And then we know that 26 of those are teachers. So it's not very many. If we have 278, that's a big number, and 26 is not very much. So I'm just going to put this little piece right here is 26 teachers. And it's asking how many are children. So that means we have to figure out this entire space right here. Because the entire thing put together is 278. This little piece right here is teachers. And we don't know this much. So now we can figure it out using math. So we have a whole and we have a piece. I always tell my students, if you have a whole, you're probably going to have to subtract, because if you have two parts separate and you put them together, it makes a whole. But if you already have a whole, you wouldn't add. So we have a total, or a whole, and we have a piece. We need to find this missing piece. So if 270 people are there and 26 are teachers, that means the rest of them are kids. We should take away the teachers and see how many are left. So I'm going to write 278 minus 26 teachers. We don't need to regroup on this problem, so 8 minus 6 is 2, 7 minus 2 is 5, and 2 minus 0 is 2. There are 252 children. If we wanted to check our work, we could do the inverse operation, and we could add the 252 plus 26 and hopefully get 278 just to check our work. So if we have 252 children and 26 teachers, 6 plus 2 is 8, 5 plus 2 is 7, and 2 plus 0 is 2. 278 people, 278 people. It matches, so we know we got the right answer. And this is our bar model. So let's look at the next one. There were 367 bicycles at Ben's bike shop. 174 bicycles are rented. How many are left? So once again, I like to circle the information. There are 367 bicycles, but 174 have been rented. How many bicycles are left? So we can draw another bar model. We know how many bicycles there were altogether. There were 367 bikes. We know that 174 are rented already, so they've left the shop. So 174 seems about half of 367. So I'm going to draw my line somewhere around the half mark. We're not 100% sure yet because we haven't done the math, but we're just estimating where we need to draw our second bar. So I would say it's around the halfway mark. So I'm going to put it right here. Here are the bikes that have been rented already. And we know that the bikes that have been rented is 174. So we're looking for this piece right here. We don't know. But it's the same thing we did before. We knew we had 367 altogether. 174 have been rented, so they are no longer in the shop. So we want to get rid of them and see how many are left. So we're going to do 174, and we're going to subtract. But we need to do some regrouping here because we can't do 6 minus 7, and I like to do my regrouping in a different color. So our 3 will become a 2 because we're going to make the 6 a 16. I don't need to regroup in the ones because I can do 7 minus 4. So 7 minus 4 is 3. 16 minus 7 is 9. And 2 minus 1 is 1. There are 193 bikes left in the shop. If we wanted to check our work again to make sure we were right, we would just do the inverse operation or add. So I can add these two numbers together in hopes of getting 367 bikes altogether. So 174 bikes were rented. 193 bikes are left in the shop. 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 plus 9 is 16. And 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. 367 bikes. 367 bikes. So we know we got the right answer. So now we're going to flip it over and do the next page. And we're going to do the same thing. I always like to read the problem a couple of times. Kennedy Elementary School has 784 students. 325 are boys. How many girls are in school? And it's asking a second question, how many more girls than boys are in the school? So this one's asking us two different problems, which we can totally do. Let's work on the first one first. So we know that there are 784 students. It tells us that. And 325 are boys. So the first question that we're looking at is how many girls are in the school? So what we need to do is draw a bar model to help us visualize this. If we have 784 students all together, students all together. My bar model's a little wonky. There we go. We have 784 all together. 325 of these are boys. So once again, I'm just going to estimate 325. It's going to be a little less than half. So I'm going to find about my halfway mark. I'm going to go a little less, and we'll say that this amount right here is boys. So the whole thing is all the students together, but this little chunk is boys, and we know that there are 325 boys, which means we don't know what this piece is right here, and we need to figure that out. So once again, we have a total. All students in the school are 784, and we know that there are 325 boys. So we're going to subtract to see how many girls are left. Well, we need to do a little bit of regrouping here. Our 8 becomes a 7, and our 4 becomes a 14. So now we can do our math. So we need to do 14 minus 5. If you need to use your hands, that's perfectly fine. Start with 14 in your head and count back 5. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. 7 minus 2, we should know that pretty quickly. That's 5. And 7 minus 3 is 4. 459 girls. So there are blank girls in the school. We figured out it is 459. If we wanted to do the inverse operation, we could. 459 plus 325, just to make sure we got the right answer. So this was how many girls we had. This is how many boys we have. So we need to do 9 plus 5, which is 14. 5 plus 2, 7 plus 1 is 8. And 4 plus 3 is 7. We have 784 people. We have 784 people. So we got the right answer. So now we need to work on the second question. How many more girls are in school than boys? So we have all this space down here to work with, so I'm going to go down here and work. So all of these bar models, we've just been figuring out a part whole. So we had a whole, and we were figuring out the parts. So this was our whole, and we needed to figure out the two parts. We did that on the first page too. But now we're comparing two things. We're comparing boys and girls, because this is how many more girls than boys are there. So this is a different kind of bar chart, or a bar model, because it's a comparison bar model, because now we're comparing two different things. So I'm going to draw a bar model for the girls. We have 459. This entire thing is 459. And I'm going to label it for girls. And now I need to add the boys. I'm going to draw a separate bar model for the boys. We've got 325 boys, because that's what it tells us. And I need to ask myself, is 325 bigger or smaller than 459? We know that it's smaller, so my bar model should be smaller. So 325 would probably be about here. So here's my girls, and here's my boys. What it's asking us is to now find this missing space right here. What is this? My marker from page 1 is kind of bleeding through, so it's a little hard to see. But we're looking for this space right here. Because here's how many girls we have, here's how many boys we have, and it's asking how many more girls than boys? Well, that would be this space right here. How many more girls than boys? Because if we drew a dotted line for the boys, it's telling us that since this is the same height, this must be 325. But what's over here? We don't know. So now we need to figure that out. So now it's just like a bar model that we did before. We have a total and we have a part. We're just looking for a missing piece. So we have 459 girls, 325, oh, I wrote that wrong, 325 boys. And we need to find the difference because we have a space right here. We don't need to regroup here, so 9 minus 5 is 4. 5 minus 2 is 3. And 4 minus 3 is 1. There are 134 more girls than boys. You can do the inverse operation on this as well. 325 plus 134 should be 459, and that should work out. So 134 more girls than boys. So this is a comparison bar model. We were comparing two different things. This is what we call a whole part or a part whole, because we have a whole, the entire box, and we have two parts. And we just needed to figure out what the missing part was. So now we have one more problem. Let's give that one a try. So it says, a pet store donates 3,500 pounds of dog food to an animal shelter. So we know that that's going to be important. 3,500 pounds. A farm donates 2,500 pounds of dog food at first. That's going to be important at first. And it says later, it donates another 2,000 pounds of dog food. How many more pounds of dog food does the farm donate than the pet store? So the farm donated 2,500 pounds and 2,000 pounds. So before we can even get started on how many more pounds of dog food did the farm donate, we need to know how much the farm donated, because we don't know yet. We know how many it donated the first time and how many it donated the second time. So the farm donated 2,500 pounds. So this is 2,500 pounds. And then it also donated 2,000. But we need to know how much it donated altogether. So we need to know what this entire bar is. We're not sure. We have two parts. We need a whole. So now we don't have a total. Remember in the beginning of the video I said, always ask yourself, do you have a total? We do not. So we need to figure it out. We have two parts together make a whole. So this time we're going to add. They donated 2,500 the first time and 2,000 the second time. How many did they donate in all? We're going to add. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 5 plus 0 is 5. And 2 plus 2 is 4. So they donated 4,500 pounds all together. But now we're not done because we need to answer the question. How many more pounds of dog food does the farm donate than the pet store? So the farm than the pet store. So now we need to make a new bar model. We need to once again compare two things. Now we're comparing the farm and comparing the pet store. So I'm going to draw the farm first. We said they donated all together 4,500 pounds of dog food. Then the pet store donated, remember the pet store donated 3,500 pounds. So I need to ask myself, is that more or less than 4,500? It's less, so my bar model needs to be smaller. And this is 3,500 pounds. And it's saying, how many more pounds did the farm donate than the pet store? So it's asking for this space. Because once again, if we make a dotted line, this amount right here is 3,500. What is this space? So now I have my total and I have a part. If you ask yourself, do I have a total? You're probably going to subtract because we have a total. So I wouldn't add two parts together. I wouldn't add these together to get this area because this is already bigger. So if I add this box with this box, it's not going to shrink. So we need to do 4,500, 3,500, and we need to subtract to figure out this area. Well, 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. 5 minus 5 is 0. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So this is 1,000 pounds. And it's 1,000 pounds more. So it says the farm donates blank pounds more of dog food. Well, it donates 1,000 pounds more. And that's our answer. 1,000 more pounds of dog food. So for these two-part bar models, you have to figure out the first question. We didn't know what the farm donated, so we had to figure it out. And then we had to compare them. So this is what we call a part whole, and this is comparing two things. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments, and I'd be happy to explain things a little further or do a couple more practice problems with you. Have a great night!